And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Al. Al, it's all you, brother.
Oh boy, what are we doing?
Well, well, I know you
I'm
were
sorry
on a
for
call.
not getting back with you. Yeah.
No, that's okay, brother. Well, I was wondering what you wanted to talk about today, because there are some exciting things that are in the works right now. I didn't know if you could talk about that.
Yep, we can.
Awesome.
Let's see how to approach this. Exciting times. So Ken and I had a lot of discussion over the past week or so, and in lieu of some of the things that are happening in the Labb business itself, and I'm leaving the industry. No, I'm kidding. What we've decided to do is go ahead and purchase our own lab. Now, I try to do everything above board and with ethics, and I've gone to the overall guy at Alpha and basically told him what we had planned on doing. And some of the reasons is to distance ourselves from some of the political or backlashes coming from certain distribution networks and so on and so forth. Anyway, so is to bring some ethics back into what we're trying to accomplish. So with that being said, I have some business partners that are good dudes, let's just put it like that, who have the same mindset. The whole thing is us being able to help people and to increase healthcare to the masses, to be able to really affect people's lives. And, you know, under that spirit, I've always talked about anytime we've done training calls, it's about humanity. It's about helping the fellow man or woman in their life. And so we've been able to, and for me, it's a God thing. He's been able to put some things in my path that just kind of, the puzzle fits together, and it's happened naturally. So what we've done, we've purchased a lab, but we also started a value-added reseller group that allows us to participate in various things with regards to healthcare. Ken, do you want me to go into the mass care portion, or just talk maybe briefly about that?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So one of the troubles that we have in the genetic testing arena, especially with all the backlash that's coming about, is getting physicians to, you know, either they say, what's in it for me, or I don't want anything to do with that. So it becomes a little bit harder sell sometimes. Not always, but sometimes we get that pushback. So we had to look at it from a holistic perspective. And well, how can we know this genetic testing is about predictive preventative medicine? It's about being able to help people to understand what they're facing. We got involved with a company that does chronic care management. The unique thing, first and foremost, is the fact that it's Medicare endorsed. The CMS is actually pushing for this program to be in because it saves them billions of dollars on the back end and improves patient care. So in healthcare, we moved from fee-for-service to value-based reimbursement, where physicians are actually being graded by their peers on a specific system, but it's all about improving patient care. Okay, that's called the MIPS program, how they report that information, and we won't get into all that. But what it is, if a physician doesn't comply with certain standards on how to practice medicine, they get an 8% cut across the board. Those that are compliant or do it well, they get bonuses. So it's kind of a rewarded system that way. One of the things that we've noticed in healthcare is the continuum of care. And in the sense that a lot of people will go to the doctor for reactive medicine, meaning that I got a tummy ache, I'm going to go see the doctor and he's going to treat me for a tummy ache and we're done. That doesn't necessarily do things for predictive or preventative things. We want to be more proactive. Chronic care management, basically what we do is we provide a clinical pharmacist and an MA on site free of charge. And the function of that clinical pharmacist, that's I guess an education level above a standard pharmacist, which means they have an internship with actual clinical studies. What they are able to do is provide them with annual wellness visits. From that annual wellness visit, they do a patient assessment. A blood test is done. They get all the information about the patient. And 92% of patients that we find that we do this annual wellness visit, they qualify for chronic care management, which means they have two identifiers. You have an elevated BMI. There's many identifiers, but if they have two, it qualifies them for chronic care. And basically they're saying that you're predisposed for, you're pre-diabetic, or you have a potential to have heart disease. We need to make some changes or do more frequent diagnostic testing. Physicians are already providing chronic care management, but this program allows them to do it in a more efficient way, a more thorough way, with remote monitoring, and it allows them to capture the charges that most physicians are leaving off the table. The end result is that for every 2,000 Medicare patients we have in a practice or a group of practices, we increase the net margin for that clinic by $1 million per year. That's huge. And it's no cost to the physician. We provide all of the staffing, all of the coding, the remote monitoring, and we're getting into programs like with HUD, where we actually have the clinical pharmacist in a mobile environment that can go to senior living homes to do the annual wellness visit. So it's bringing care to the patients that way. That's a big program we're working on for HUD. HUD's no longer in the housing business; they're in the medical business, and they need to do something with all of the senior citizens. So that's something they're looking to do nationwide. So the end result is it allows us to go in and talk to a practice, and even if they only have 500 patients, that's okay. It's just proportionate. So 500 patients would give them additional $250,000. You're increasing the profitability of the practice, increasing the patient care, and you're relieving some of the workflow, because with the clinical pharmacist doing the annual wellness visit or the patient assessment, the physician doesn't have to do that, and they get the bill for it. And the continuum of care, 20% of patients in the doctor's office are what bottlenecks things, because they're the problematic. I'm one of those problem children. I may have 17.
Yeah. I'm so sorry, brother. Let me just clarify what you said. They don't get the bill. They get to bill for it.
Did I say?
Yeah,
no.
Well, I just, some people might not have understood that. They don't get the bill. They get to bill for it, so they can also increase the revenue that way as well.
Yeah, so the doctors actually do all the billing, but the clinical pharmacist works underneath the doctor, so they're like an extension of their staff. What the clinical pharmacist does is does the work for the physician and have the physician sign off on them, and their own billing department or company will do the billing for them, so it increases their billings by that amount. Now the revenue share is. Can I ask you a
question? Because I know this is a question that others are wondering. How can the doctor's office increase the revenue by $1 million without violating the Stark law?
Okay, because it's their treatment of the patients, number one, and what they're doing is that they're increasing. So there's different kinds of codes. So say for example, if you tell a patient, I need you to send me your blood pressure once a month. Just text it into us. And so a lot of physicians already do that. They receive the text, they put it in the patient's file, and they move on. Well, that's a billable charge. That's $54 a month. If that patient touches base once a month, that's a billable for $54. Most doctors aren't billing for that. Well, to accentuate or expound on that the chronic care management system actually has a caseworker on steroids kind of thing. They're following up with the patient. They're logging that information, and they're allowing the physician's practice to bill for that. Like I said, this is endorsed by Medicare, because the end result is if they're doing preventative medicine, then they're going to have less cost on the back end. Patients aren't going to have to go to the doctor as often. They can do remote monitoring, which means they don't have to come in the office, which holds down on the amount they're having to pay for the treatment of that patient. So it really is, excuse me, it really is a way to cut down on costs and patients' time and physicians' time, and increasing better patient care.
Now, there are minimum amount of Medicare patients that the office needs to have in order for this program to be implemented in that office, correct?
Well, there is and there isn't. So we always use the rule of thumb of 2,000 Medicare patients. Well, the reality is that a single physician office has about 2,500 active patients, 400 of which are probably Medicare. So that's below the 2,000 patients, right? What we do is we work in an area for a community. It says, okay, we've got 4 practices that have signed on the chronic care management. We can share that resource of the clinical pharmacist to go to maybe Clinic A on Mondays, Clinic B on Tuesdays, Clinic C on Wednesdays. But they're still accomplishing the same amount of work. So if they only have 400 Medicare patients, they don't need to be there every day.
Okay, awesome. So if we work a certain area, a certain region, we have 4 doctors' offices. Let's say we talk to a doctor and he says, hey, well, we only have about 400, 500 Medicare patients. We said, you know what, that's great. What we're going to do is we're going to bring on 4 other doctors for a total of 5 doctors with the same amount of Medicare patients for a total of 2,000. So we're going to put you on we're going to put you in line. You're first in line. As soon as we get the other 4, which will, you know, if you guys are out there working, it's not going to take long to get 5 doctors to come on board with this. And matter of fact, those doctors probably know a doctor or 2. So, and this program is so strong that it's a great lead-in, and we don't have to do we don't have to do the training for the doctor's office at this point either. The clinical, the licensed clinical pharmacist does all the swabbing and everything for the doctor. Is that correct?
That is correct, and they fill out the requisition, and they also do the qualifying of the patients that do qualify for medical necessity. So it's a natural process of their program. They're actually mandated to do these screening processes because it's available. Clinical documentation establishes medical necessity, and therefore it says in order for you to do the preventive side, we need to do some predictive measures. And genetic testing, whether it be the myocardiopathy, whether it be the cancer, pharmacogenetics, every patient gets a pharmacogenetics, by the way, and the PAD, the Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia. And so that's an automated thing.
Wow. And and we get, and we'll go over the, have you put together the contract yet?
Yes.
Or how soon before that's going to be ready for all of us?
I'm hoping we can put that out tomorrow. Worst case scenario, the following day. So we've come to an agreement as to what that looks like, and Ken, you and I can have a discussion about what that looks like. So it's no longer what I'm able to do. What I found is a lot we're talking about paying per clinic, a certain amount per clinic, and with a minimum amount of swabs, so on and so forth. And I think what I'm finding is that it was a diversion tactic. After pursuing legal and actually looking at the ACRA law, we can actually pay on a percentage basis. Okay, and Ken, you and I can have a discussion as to what that is.
That's
so
wonderful.
It makes it cleaner. There's no capitalization.
Much easier. Oh yes. Oh my goodness, that's really good news. So let me ask you about the service, the Mass Care service with the clinical pharmacist. Okay, that's at no cost to the doctor's office, correct?
Correct.
And if we have 5 doctor's offices in the area that have 400 Medicare patients, it will increase each doctor's office about 200,000, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And is there any other labs in the country offering this service?
Not at the moment. And we are the only company in the United States that actually uses clinical pharmacists. There's other chronic care management services out there, but we're the only one that uses clinical pharmacists, and we do that for that reason. There's a chasm or a gap or a gulf between communication with pharmacists and doctors nowadays. For some reason, they just can't really jive on things. Actually, putting a pharmacist right there helps significantly, and Medicare encourages it because it helps with medication-assisted treatments. Pharmacogenetics is the crux of all that, to seeing what medication is going to work best on that particular genetic makeup for a patient. So it's also looking for contraindications. That's done in real time. And the fact that the pharmacist is signing off on it. It's like you're putting a pharmacy right there at the doctor's office without dispensing. It's beautiful how it works.
Oh my goodness. It's amazing, actually.
It is. Let me tell you this.
Go ahead,
before you move on to that. So if you find a clinic that say has 400 or 500 Medicare patients, don't hesitate to work with them, because Mass Care is so big, they're national, that they are willing to take a chance of saying, well, I'm just going to hire a pharmacist to go there 1 day a week. We'll help you develop the clinics in the area. So that's another thing that Mass Care will bring to the table, is they have a presence already. So you may be complementing somewhere that they're already at, and you can use references to say, we're already doing business with so-and-so over here. Now, I can tell you that they just signed a large hospital contract with 104 hospitals. We just finished up with an MSO out in California with 140 clinics. their exposure is out there. This company knows what they're doing.
Very, very, very exciting. So now as we approach doctor's offices, our lead-in is no longer going to be the genomic screening, the CGX and PGX, and the diagnostics. Our lead-in is going to be the mass care now. Would you agree with that? Or depending upon, it doesn't depend on the doctor's office, because we no longer need to worry about having a 2,000 Medicare patient office. This is, by the way, guys, this is all news to me right now. I was under the understanding that a minimum of 2,000, but goodness, this is another game changer. I shared with everybody, I sent an email out. We've got great news coming tonight, and I don't believe that was an exaggeration at all. Okay.
Fantastic. Well, let me tell you about the other part of this program that it's going to help you even so with the clinics in the area, which what's called transitional care. In like Georgia or Louisiana specifically, Louisiana, so federal regulations state that if you're hospitalized for a specific condition, discharged and re-hospitalized for the same condition within 30 days, that the hospital cannot bill your insurance for that. So they have to eat that cost. In Louisiana, the state of Louisiana, that readmission rate is at 47%. And the reason that's happening is that patients aren't following up with the suggested care, meaning they're not going to their PCP, they're not following up with their post discharge instructions. So what we do is we work with, excuse me, with hospitals. One case in Louisiana is that we go in, we contract with them that say, when you're discharging patients, send them to us, because what we're going to do is we're going to do a patient assessment, make sure they're in with a primary care physician or work with a current primary care physician, and enroll them in chronic care management. So now we're pushing patients to the PCP. These people actually, the MAs that work with these patients that are in chronic care, they walk out to their car to walk them to the car or into the clinic themselves. They cater to them, they give them hugs, they become personable with them. It's really, that's the most beautiful part about this program. It's about helping other people. Some people just don't have family members when they get discharged to help them, or they're not ambulatory. They can't get to the doctor's office. There's things that we can work around that. But the communication, that MA is responsible, or that clinical pharmacist is responsible for the continuum of care outside of what the doctor does. So they're pushing them to go get other tests. Maybe they need to go to a nephrologist or a urologist. They make sure they go to that appointment. They set up all the referrals for them. There's a lot of work they do for them. So the cool thing is that when the hospital works with a transitional care, that one example that we used in Louisiana, what used to be 47% is now below 10%. Those are millions of dollars. Hospitals are loving it. And so what do? They feed us patients to feed into the program, which pushes patients to the doctors. So now we're working with primary care physicians and increasing their patient load. All the while, guess what happens? They do genetic screenings on them. It's a natural process, okay? Mm-hmm. The other piece of that too is that we're in the ancillary business, because we started a VAR in conjunction with the Labb that allows us to participate in things like diabetic testing equipment, remote monitoring software, all those types of services, and so I think there's 9 of them that come with it. We're gonna, when we do a mass care deal, not only are you gonna get paid on the swabs, but you're gonna get paid on the ancillaries as well.
Wow.
So no, we're increasing. You'll find that the revenue share with regards to your commissions on the samples are going to be elevated by comparison to what you're accustomed to, and additional revenue streams to come along with it in the same cell.
This is very,
the example very in California,
exciting, incredible.
I'll give you a real world case example in California with the IPA. You've heard me talk about it before. We introduced mass care to them. We're going there Friday to begin the installation. What started out as 10,000 patients grew to 90,000. Now it's 300 Medicare B patients. We are going to make that IPA, we're going to make them or allow them to be able to bill profit dollars of $200 million net margin to their practices.
Wow.
Yep.
I'd love to be the agent that set that one up, huh? That's permanent retirement money there.
Well, it's recurring revenue. That's the beautiful thing about brick and mortar. It's a gift that keeps giving, right?
Yeah. Wow.
No longer event stuff. But anyway, that's just an example. And it works, folks. I mean, these guys have been, as a matter of fact, the guy that's the CEO of MassCare is the name of the company. The CEO of MassCare used to work in the lab business. So he understands what we do. We have to, as far as developing test panels on our end, we've taken it a step further. The necessity for specific testing like pharmacogenetics is above and beyond what normal in pharmacogenetics. The cancer screening, we do double verification of positive results. There's a lot of things that we do that hasn't been done in the past. It costs a little bit more money, but the dependency on or the reliability of the test is increased incrementally and substantially, okay? And with MassCare, genetic counseling is automatically provided by the clinical pharmacists or trained geneticists.
No kidding.
So they have real-time genetic counseling for them. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Oh my goodness. No kidding. That's amazing. Wow.
That's the difference between a standard pharmacist and a certified clinical pharmacist.
All right. We're getting some questions here. Can I shoot some questions at you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Carlos had a great question. It's Medicare only, correct?
Yes, for the chronic care management is Medicare. Now, I'm not going to get into it, but we are working on being able to take commercials in Medicaid. But that's the target. That program is designed specifically for Medicare. That's why you look at it and you say 2,500 patients, there's only 400. And that's going to vary depending on what the payer mix is. But
that's really been our target market. That's been our target market because, that's who pays for the screening to be done. Although there are some private insurances now that are taking care of that, but primarily it's been Medicare. Now, with prior to you introducing this to us, and guys, I got to tell you that Al and I have been talking for we met back at late July, early August, and as you guys know, he's been coming on every week, every Tuesday night. I think he only missed one Tuesday night, and because he had a cold. But we have been communicating, and it was about 3 weeks ago. He maybe right around there that he said that he was looking at purchasing his own lab, and but it was only about a week or so ago that he told me about this chronic care program. And this is a game changer, guys. I've never heard of anything like this in the industry, and we're I don't know how many other teams Al's working with, but I know we're probably some of the first people to hear about this program being offered this way. So I'm very, very excited. But we've always worked with Medicare. I had a point there. I'm sorry. My point was this. Prior to this, guys, we were the ones that were going to have to go in and train the doctors and make sure that we kept going back to make sure that the doctors were going to stay with us and make sure that they were doing everything we were educating them properly so that they would be able to, do swabs every month, that they knew the importance of this, because a lot of doctors have not been trained in genetic screening and genetic testing, and they want to get into it, but they don't know how. We were the ones that were going to bring that information to them and educate them through the videos and everything that I was showing you, and just being there for them and helping them walk. We don't have to do that anymore. That's the powerful thing about this program. And we don't have to be holding their hands, making sure that their patients are being taken care of. We'll have a licensed clinical pharmacist right there that will have access to all the patient's information and be able to screen them right there. Am I correct on that, brother?
That is correct.
That is powerful.
You don't have to train them anymore. You don't have to do customer service anymore.
Okay.
So when you sign them on, they're on.
That's awesome, man. This is being recorded, Nancy. I've got some other questions too. Is the MassCare the name of the chronic care company?
Yes.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yep.
Let's see.
And so for those that want to be crafty, don't try to contact them outside of it. So our relationship is symbiotic with Mass Care. It's an unwritten thing for purposes of compliance. We do not do revenue share amongst each other. However, the amount of business that we're bringing Mass Care and the amount of business Mass Care is bringing us, it's a symbiotic, and basically, as sometimes I say in business, we're in bed with each other. They'll hold true. They've got my back and I've got theirs. So that's bode well for you guys as well, because what happens is not only do we have what we bring to the table from the Labb's perspective, but you've got the endorsement from something that's much bigger than what we are.
Susan's got a question here. She wants to know what's the average readmission rates in larger metro areas versus rural areas.
In larger metro versus rural?
Yeah.
So I can tell you the national average. I don't know that statistic, but I can tell you the national average is 32%.
Okay. Peggy's asking a question. I'll answer this. How can we get a business plan that reflects compensation? Al and I are going to be going over that probably tomorrow. I would assume tomorrow, the next day. As soon as he has those, I'll be bringing that to you guys, and our contracts will reflect that. Okay. So guys, listen. You guys have been super patient, and I'm proud of you. We've got 46 people on the call right now, Al. And for you guys that have been patient and been waiting, and you've been so kind, I haven't gotten any nasty texts or emails. So that speaks volumes. Guys, what we're getting ready to introduce is something that I believe what we were talking about before that was going to be life-changing. This is off the charts, what we're looking at right now, guys. So just be a little bit more patient. It might be a week or two. I've got to get the backside of this site finished as well, and I'm hoping to have most of that done by Saturday. So, and it might take a little longer. These things don't happen overnight. It took me a full week to get this website done here. And part of it was because I was using a program that was more complicated than I should have. I should have went right here, but there's reasons why I was doing that. I don't want to get into them. Plugins and all that kind of stuff. So, but I feel that we've been able to work around that. So just be a little bit more patient. Your patience will be greatly rewarded. Now, Al, I want to ask you one other thing, because this is important to everybody. You're welcome, Nancy. Al, you mentioned about compensation and getting paid. Were you going to be able to pay us in advance, or is that something that is not on the table right now?
So it is pre-adjudication, what we call pre-adjudication, meaning that we're not going to wait till we get paid to pay you, if that's what you're asking.
Okay, yes, that's what I was asking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, awesome. All right,
and so for those that,
go ahead.
We're talking about a lot of volumes. One of the questions that came up, I was just speaking with another group, and one of the things was, well, that translates to a lot of dollars, and we're well aware of that. We've projected that out because we're looking at quite a bit of business. So just know that we have the financial resources to sustain that from a cash flow perspective.
Okay, and I've got another question on how long has Mass Care been in business offering this?
Mass Care, I think it's been almost 4 years.
Okay.
The program's been developed for quite a while. I mean, this was a natural transition for Jake. Jake was, he's been in healthcare. He was the CEO of a publicly traded company that just went ballistic, and he's a phenomenal dude. I mean, I'm impressed with him, and he's just solid. And he happens to be a believer too, so is my brother. But the cool thing is that he was designed for this, and the amount of financial backing that he has. He's taken a company public before, but he knew beforehand that repeatable, scalable process needs to come in business. He had a lot of foresight, but he's got over 250 investors. Cash flows on issue for him. This all stuff has been vetted and approved by CMS, which is huge. Medicare, like I said, is endorsing this program. They're encouraging it. And he's the only one in the country that does it, like I said, with clinical pharmacists. But this guy's been in
you guys,
healthcare
just to
for
let
quite a
you
while.
guys know, Al and Jake have been good friends for a while, and you guys, when he said you don't want to circumvent, you don't want to circumvent on that, okay?
No, he's my boy.
Yeah. So the other thing, Carlos has another great question. What about direct primary care facilities that are subscription based and will not take or process insurance?
You're talking about self-pay, concierge?
Yeah, that's I believe that's what he's talking about, self-pay.
Yeah, so we can work within those parameters, and that's typically concierge is turning out to be kind of a capitalization. Everybody understands capitalization, where Humana Gold's a good one in Florida, and doctor's office will sign up and say, we'll participate in Humana Gold, and that's pretty much all they'll take. And Humana Gold says, well, we're going to pay you X amount of dollars per patient per month, but you got to manage that patient's care within those parameters, right? So there's a lot of give and take with that. Some we have sicker patients, which are about 20% of the population, and the remainder is where they kind of make up for that. Concierge medicine can work the same way. So I've got a good friend of mine who owns like 7 clinics, and he does concierge medicine. He charges a flat fee per year, and he's their doctor 24/7, 7 days a week. If they feel like it's viable part of what they're trying to do from a chronic care, and we can show them where it saves them money on the back end, we will work with them, but they'll have to pay for those services. So it's not going to be a free service to them because we're not paying the bill. The revenue share, I'm just be transparent. The revenue share is whatever they're offering. They offer the staffing free, the clinical pharmacists and the MA, and the bills that the office is able to generate because of their efforts, they share 75-25. So the chronic care management gets 75% of the billables, and the clinic actually gets 25%. But the ratio is they get $1 million for every 2,000 patients, or 250 for 500, whatever it works out to be.
Okay. Now, what about hospitals? Will this apply to hospitals, the mass care?
Absolutely. So we talked a bit about the transitional care, right?
Right.
Where we work with hospitals. We'll work with hospitals for them to refer their patients out to it. We decreased their overhead from non-billables for readmissions, and then we get patients to enroll in chronic care. What we're pushing it to are physicians that are willing to receive chronic care patients, which increases their billings. So not only are we increasing the profitability of the clinic, we're increasing their patient load, okay? And we're relieving the financial obligation from the hospital side. They love it. And as a matter of fact, they're endorsing it. They're like, please take care of some of these patients. So working with the hospitals, that's how chronic care management works with the hospital. Most hospitals have hospitalists that actually are employees of the hospital. So that's a business plan. I don't know if Jake wants to talk about, but basically we are going to be working with ACOs on this level. That's the end game. So what you see working with individual clinic or working with an IPA or an MSO, managed service organization, say the 300,000 patients out in California, right. It's gotten even bigger. The end game is to be able to work with an ACO, which runs multiple hospitals, and be able to manage their care and costs. So yes, if you have an insight into an ACO, let me know. So I will say this because we did make it public. We're going to start our own ACO within the next year or so.
Wow.
Based on this model, which means that we can roll this out to every hospital in the United States.
This is good.
So there's more to this than just genetic testing. A lot more. And listen, us as a company, we made a decision early on, and Ken knows about this, is we don't want to get in a situation where we've got thousands of agents out there. We want, as we said in the Marine Corps, we want a few good men or a few good women to do this job. I would rather pay somebody $1 million a year, one person, rather than 10 people at, 100,000, because that limits the amount of quality control that I have to have an exposure. And it helps us in the sense that the way that we work in this market will actually, and I'm not saying we're going to, but the way it will work, I believe, is that we're going to be pushing business to you guys, some of the things that we're working on for the Department of Defense and some VA contracts, as well as Indian Health, and we just signed a 104 hospital corporation and 200 plus hospitals with Tenet. A lot of this stuff is going to result in we need some good people that we can push business to. So we'll be able to help you.
I know a few good men and women that are on the call right now, brother.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a couple more questions that are good questions. As we start growing as a company, are they going to be able to keep up with the growth with the licensed clinical pharmacists?
So that's one of the unique things about what MassCare does. That's a great question, by the way, because it's resources. Some of the chronic care management programs in the past have failed because they're not able to allocate resources. Clinical pharmacists are jumping at being able to take part in this. We work with various colleges who produce these clinical pharmacists, because what allows the clinical pharmacists to do is not have to sit and just count prescriptions all day long. They get to exercise. They have to go through another 2 years worth of school to get that status as a certified clinical pharmacist. And so, but they do in their internship in clinics. So they want to be able to utilize that education. This is one of few avenues that they have to be able to exercise that education.
Wow.
So as of this point, we recruit and we train our own, or MassCare does, and there's not been a shortage. So their own staffing company as well. We also take those.
Go ahead, brother.
So we take all those clinical pharmacists, and like I said before, we also have them get certified in genetic counseling. That's one of the prerequisites in coming aboard. And the unique thing is we do the staffing. If a doctor doesn't gel well with a clinical pharmacist, we'll replace them. It has to be at the approval of the physician, because if they're an extension of their staff, they've got to be able to get along.
Well, I know there's about 45 people on the call right now. They're loving every minute of this. I got Rigo that Rigo said to me, okay, you have to understand the humor of this. I just finished the website yesterday. I actually put a couple fun health touches on it today, and he goes, time to revamp the website. Yeah, I'll put another tab at the top or something, and another link for MassCare. This is so exciting, brother. And we had another one say we're going to need super training on this. What about PowerPoints, marketing tools that we can go into the doctor's office with, maybe even you and I, or yourself, doing a short video on what, now, you know what, I never asked you well, we'll talk about that later. I was going to ask you something, but we'll talk about that later. But marketing.
So let me speak to that real quick.
Yeah.
So all you need to do, that's another beautiful thing about this relationship. All you need to do is generate interest. MassCare will come in and close themselves.
Whoa.
So you get the interest. They have the staffing to be able to come in and the resources to say, we'll close the deal for you.
Oh my goodness.
So
because we got some things right now, big ones that we've been holding off. I know there's somebody on the call right now. They've got a door cracked open for 1,100 doctors' offices. So
oh, wow.
So let's circle the wagons and we'll talk about that. But that is very, very exciting. So how do we as a team then have access to MassCare after you put the contracts together, obviously?
Right. So once that's done, what I'd like to do is actually get Jake, introduce Jake on our next webinar. And we'll give a presentation so that you see a better overview of what happens and all the details in the presentation.
Yeah.
So you're educated enough where you're comfortable enough to talk about it. From that perspective, he and I are working out through our relationship that when we receive a lead like that, how we're going to get him to follow up on it.
Okay.
And part of that is me. I mean, I understand what he does. That's what was so beautiful about our relationship is I totally got what he was saying because I'd been in this business for a while, and we were just very synergistic in our thought processes. So I can be an extension of him for us as well.
Okay, that's phenomenal. Awesome. Everybody's excited. I'm just reading everybody's chats. This is great. Yeah. We're so blessed, guys. I'm so thankful. when things happened with Momentum, it was a gut punch to all of us. I know that. But as the individual that was leading the team, it really, you know, I hurt for you guys. And it ended up being a huge blessing in disguise. You know, Al had contacted me and let me know that he was looking at, and he was in the process of acquiring a lab himself. And the relationship that we had built over the last 2 months had become, you know, strong enough that he felt confident to talk to me about that. And not knowing, you know, well, this I think was right after everything, or right during the time everything was going down with Momentum. But it was through the relationship that we built with Momentum. And, you know, I try not to judge why people make the choices they make, but it was painful. And, but this ended up becoming a huge blessing, not just for me, but for everyone that's on this call right now, and future agents that are going to be coming on board with us. So I'm just very thankful. It's been almost an hour. Al, did you have anything else that you wanted to touch base with? Because I think we're going to call it a night. I don't want to keep people too much longer. And we will talk about the next webinar. And if right now, guys, the next webinar looks like it might be Tuesday of next week, a week from today. But if we can do one sooner, I will put out an email. I'll let everybody know. Is that fair, Al?
Absolutely.
Okay. So we'll be circling. Yeah, I know, Carlos. I told you, brother. I told you this was going to be a game changer.
God is good. Yeah.
He is. He is.
That's
and
the way
faithful.
He works.
Faithful.
Yep.
I don't know about you guys, but I've been at the point, you know, where as a single father, I've been in the grocery store and literally sweating, not knowing, you know, what food item I should purchase. And so if you guys are in tough situations, I know where you're at. And those days are going to be over for all of us that are going to go to work with this. So I'm very thankful. I'm going to go ahead. Al, did you have anything else you wanted to go over?
No, I just appreciate your time, guys. And I look forward to working with you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, guys. Let me go ahead and I'm going to mute everybody, and you guys can say, oh, wait, here we go. Thank you. Who was that? Susan. Thank you. I'm missing something on that, Susan. Let's see. Please note correction under your diagnosis tab to spell GenLab solution without the E. Okay. Let me look at that right now. I'll look at it as soon as I'm off. I also bought GenLabSolutions.com as well. So I probably just was a little, you know, just putting that in because I'd written that down too. I was looking at GenLab, but I like GenLab the best. All right, Al, God bless you. Thank you so much. And team, you guys are awesome. I'm gonna unmute everybody. You guys can all say goodbye. If you
thanks, guys.
You're welcome. You guys can unmute
Thank you,
yourself
gentlemen.
too. Yep. Awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thanks, Ken.
To be continued.
Amen. Yes, it will be.
Amen.
Have a blessed night, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Restroom is on.
You guys are awesome.
Good night.
We're working hard to do our best, guys. All right, guys. We're going to call it a night. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I cut somebody off. Good night, everybody. Appreciate it.
Good night.
All righty.
They're heavy.